Daniel Ricciardo, ex-Red Bull racing driver with 8 wins under his belt. Some would say the pride of Australian motorsport in the recent years. That's who we're talking about today. Alright, we're going to be cooking. There's a lot to talk about, and I want to get into this guy and speculate on his future and what could be going on in my thoughts and some things with the past as well. I think it's a really big thing coming into 2024 and onwards into 2025 with the amount of roster changes. The potential is very crazy. It's a very, very busy time in Formula 1. So I really want to snap into action here and talk about Daniel Ricciardo, the honey badger, as he is often, he's never referred to that. He's never referred to as the honey badger, but it is his nickname. We shall grant him it for the one time. So let's get into it. Obviously, we got the Australian Grand Prix coming up around the corner. It's in a few days. Home Grand Prix for my boys. Home Grand Prix for me as well. So I figured it's the perfect time to look through our second favorite Australian in the motorsport industry. But let's go real quick. Who is Daniel Ricciardo, real quick? Alright, what is he known for? How did he get big? Well, a lot of people know him primarily from Red Bull. Breaking out, he joined the team in 2014 after Mark Webber's retirement, joining the likes of Sebastian Vettel, which was the start of the hybrid era, I believe, or right before it. You had him actually beating Sebastian Vettel in the head-to-head that year, which is a huge deal. So beating your teammate who was just a 4-time champion is gigantic. So having that as your breakout, like, big team performance is crazy. Absolutely huge for him. Besides that, he's just being known for kind of just the likable, funny guy, like just the funny merchant. Like, he went on Top Gear. He did this. He just showed off a bit of finger action here. Something like that. This is average in Australia. You know, he's just farming funny moments. And he's huge in Australia. Like, he's like the figure, not the figurehead per se, but he's on. You can see here right here. We got the Yes Optus. Optus being a service provider here in Australia, internet service provider. And Daniel Ricciardo was for a very long time. He might still be. I'm not sure if he is anymore. But even when he was with McLaren, he was kind of not the poster boy, but he was there all the time. You'd see him super commonly, just like walking down the street. If you see an Optus ad on a window, Daniel Ricciardo was there. That's kind of the backstory of Daniel Ricciardo. For the most part, that's how we got his breakout at least, and why he's kind of who we know him as today. But before we get into present day, we have to talk about the last 2 years, that being his McLaren stint. Very, very infamous stint. You have the 2021 head-to-head with Lando Norris. Lando Norris being an exceptionally talented driver. And this head-to-head isn't awful. This is kind of where, it would have been Lewis and George were last year. I think this is a bit worse. Unless you're looking at points, then it's kind of the same, like a 50%-ish difference between the points. You know, if you're being generous about it. Obviously, the thing separating these two is the race finish. Kind of an outlier, to be honest, especially if you're looking at racing qualifying. 15-7 in both of them. Very convenient. But this is also a very young Lando Norris. And Daniel Ricciardo at this point is a veteran of the sport, essentially. He's been in Formula 1 for about 10 years or 11 years by this point. And has been in primary, like, big teams for like 8 or so, whatever amount of years. So having this as your head-to-head against someone that is, like 21 at the time, still very, very young in the sport. This would have been his third year, which isn't a rookie. But it's not a rookie, like, definitely not. But still very, very young and, like, so much room for growth. And that room for growth showed really hard in the second year together in the 2022 season, where it was such a ridiculous blowout. In a car that it had some potential. Obviously, it wasn't like a front runner. Otherwise, you would have seen way more Lando podiums, obviously. But 16-5 in the race, 20-2 in qualifying is dastardly. Like this, look at the points: 122-37. And you're a veteran of the sport, bro. You can't be letting this happen. So this is this very, very infamous McLaren stint. And now with all this out of the way, because this is like, this is set up, right? This is where we're at currently. Because after this, he took his break from Formula 1, and then he didn't, he came back. Because Nick de Vries was absolutely horrendous. So you had Daniel Ricciardo get shoved back into the seat halfway through the season, as we all know, and now he's here AlphaTauri, or VCARB, to this day. Now let's talk about present day, where you had this cheeky little incident at the Saudi Grand Prix, which a lot of people I saw lapping it up because of recent Daniel Ricciardo events. People were eating this up, calling him washed. This is the primary reason for today's video, because so many people saw this and were like, it's over, it's Jova, he's washed. And I will say, as we're about to go over, it looks bad. Alright, but you gotta remember, it's the second race of the season. We're coming up on the third. I thought about postponing this video until the Australian Grand Prix. Didn't feel like it. But this spin was bad. Oh my god, this is bad. He spun completely on his lonesome. This is so ridiculously unwarranted, it's insane for a driver of his caliber. And who's not even fighting anywhere on the field either. He's just by himself at 16th. Just spinning out. He just thinks he's a ballerina. He thinks he's Crash Bandicoot. No reason for this. And it rings. It's giving Nick de Vries. That's why a lot of people are kind of cooking up right now. I think, yeah, honestly, it might be so. It might be so. Nick de Vries delivered some shocking performances. Daniel Ricciardo's performances in these last few races have not been good. To be honest, not even remotely. There haven't been Nick de Vries, but because the storyline is just insane. It would be insane of Nick de Vries getting shoved out of the seat for being awful, and then Daniel Ricciardo being better, then getting shoved out of the seat for being awful, having these incidents, and to compliment this, because Daniel Ricciardo is the supposed number one candidate for the Red Bull seat, the secondary seat at least. Always threatening to take Sergio Perez's job. You have Helmut Marko praising Perez on his last two races, which is very good. Perez, it's good. It's good. I will say, kind of a caveat to this is the start of Perez's season last year was also quite good. You gotta give these things breathing time. You don't know if he's actually gonna be shiced for the rest of the season. He wasn't last year. We know this. We don't know how much of this is just the Red Bull being the top car, but regardless, he didn't spin out and slam into another driver like he did for the entirety of the second half of the season last year. It seemed like, where there was like Albon or Yuki or K-Mag, Charles Leclerc, any of those. And things like this, you don't want to. If you're Daniel Ricciardo, you don't want to be seeing this. You do not want to be seeing this. That's your main focus, right? Because Daniel Ricciardo, he's in this seat now at VCARB to work his way back into Red Bull, and if Perez is doing his job as a secondary driver and just delivering these points in these second places and these podium finishes, and Daniel Ricciardo is spinning out on his own, bad looks, bad looks. Right? Because we know this, bit outdated because we know that the secondary that's big, but the second driver on Ferrari next year will be Hamilton. Besides that, 14 of these contracts also are gonzo. You have both Williams, both Romeos, both of the VCARB / AlphaTauri. You have Stroll, lol, if you believe that. But there's a lot of 2025 silly season. It's around the corner. A lot of contracts coming up and all this. So there's a lot of stress on Daniel Ricciardo. All right, a lot of stress. We know Helmut Marko has been seeing how nice Yuki is at the sticks, bro. He's one of the nicest men on the wheel of all time. I gotta say it. Helmut Marko, he's been nicing him up. Big Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda has been doing bits. Originally joining the 2021 season it was, with Pierre Gasly, kind of getting washed by him a little bit, although getting that nice 4th place at the Yas Marina in Abu Dhabi. Very underrated, by the way. I don't know what happened 2021 Abu Dhabi to completely overshadow Yuki's 4th place. It must have been something small. I don't know. But Yuki's been doing very, very nice this season. I think we can agree. He had a very, very good 2023 season overall as well. Like, he just keeps growing. He keeps growing. and we go to the Bahrain timesheets, I believe these are. These aren't too bad. You see Yuki and Daniel close together, separated by a few positions, but just on time, fairly close, very, very close, between Q1 and Q2. Obviously, neither of them made it to Q3, only being separated by Lance and Albon. This isn't too bad. This is basically like negligible, we can all agree. The second one, Saudi Arabia, much, much bigger, half a second on Q2 timings. The Q1 timings are fine, but you're also, that in itself is like, oh nah. But then you look at it, like, the people between them, and you're like, okay, how is Yuki Tsunoda's beating Lance and Oliver Behrman, the not even rookie, the guy that's still in F2, replacement for Carlos Sainz, and is somehow out qualifying Daniel Ricciardo at age 33 with 11 years of experience. Kind of insane. Also just being off the pace of your teammate by half a second. I don't know who's letting him do this. I don't know. He must think it's funny to be, like, terrible. Like, he doesn't understand what team he's in. Because we know Red Bull to get rid of these drivers, bro. Like, I don't know what he's... Just a bit of light trolling. Gonna need a lot of noise and distraction to cover that up, and this is another thing. I have another thing on this down the line, but, you know, this noise and distraction thing, it'll blow over, but I got a feeling it's a red herring, bro, because Daniel Ricciardo, the main point of keeping Daniel Ricciardo, if we're being real, and everyone kind of understands this, is also he's just a PR machine. When he was a reserve driver at Red Bull, oh my god, he was doing everything. He was in more Red Bull content than Perez was, easily. Easily, it wasn't even close. Like, he's the PR man. So if you're saying things like this, and he's not the only one guilty of statements like this on, about the whole Christian Horner situation and stuff like that, but he is getting more flack for it because of, like, how it's viewed. He just looks like he's sucking up so hard for that Red Bull seat, to the point where he's just, like, being a fucking nuisance. Not a nuisance, but just being very disrespectful of, you know, women and, like, you know, the sport and people in the industry. Like, a very serious situation that has a very huge, like, lack of transparency around it. So, like, if your PR machine is doing stuff like this, it's a bad look. It's a very bad look. Okay. Enter Liam Lawson. Everyone knows that Liam Lawson should have had this seat. We're being real. I don't care if you think that he should have taken it over Yuki or Daniel. I do actually care if you think you should have taken it over Yuki. That's kind of preposterous, to be honest. But, he should have had the seat over Daniel Ricciardo. And for the uninitiated, we all know the story. Daniel Ricciardo thought it'd be really funny to break his arm. Or slash his hand, whatever. Who cares? At Zandvoort last year. And then, for this, Liam Lawson came in and had a fantastic race. On what might have been... Honestly, this could have been the only track that would have been harder to debut on as a reserve would have been Qatar. Qatar would have been the only race that would have been harder than this, I think, or on the same level. But the conditions of Zandvoort were ridiculous. So many drivers were aquaplaning. I think Joe Guan Yu, who is not very accident prone at all, neither of the Alfa Romeo drivers are, aquaplaned on this race, like sent it into the wall. A lot of the crazy things happened at Zandvoort. Yuki actually lost out to Liam Lawson this race. I think based on a time penalty, I believe. Speaking of time penalties, Gasly also got podium on this race due to a time penalty from Sergio Perez. This is a lot of stuff happened this race. It was very, very, very crazy. And the biggest thing that put Liam Lawson on the map, by far, is the Singapore timesheet last year in qualifying, where you had Liam Lawson knock out both Red Bull drivers. Oh my god, the planet exploded. I've never seen such like unification of all fan bases on every team. When like, bro, oh my god, when Liam Lawson did this, internet blew up. This put Liam Lawson on the map. This made him an instant fan favorite. Dude, this, whew. God damn. Alright, yeah, let's get into this, bro. Okay, so you took out both Max and Perez in the timesheets. huge. So huge. It was the first time Max was even dropped out of Q3. Dropped out of Q2 even. In Q2, I mean. Sorry. And we can ignore beating Yuki Tsunoda, and for now, although I don't have much to say about this, this is just like what put... I think this is the concrete moment where put Liam Lawson, like, as a huge name, begging for a race seat, everyone's just chiming in, adding their 2 cents, just throwing bricks, throwing Molotovs, saying that he needs this seat so bad. And it's completely true. Like, he scored points, like, immediately. And then he goes ahead and, like, does this? Are you crazy? Oh my god. And, little thing right here, real quick. I have Yuki Tsunoda highlighted with yellow, real quick. Because I want to say, if you didn't know last year, this is part of the huge kind of drama about Red Bull and AlphaTauri being too close of a team, being too separately, closely connected. And it's because of this incident, primarily, where you had Yuki Tsunoda, Q1. That time in Q1 was faster than any other time, like, in the session, I'm pretty sure. Which is ridiculous. Or, not in the session. But, wait, it was the fastest time in Q1. I think it might have been the fastest time in Q2 as well. But it was easily good enough to get him into Q3. Like, with that time alone. Which is ridiculous. But, in Q2 running, someone thought it'd be funny to impede my son. And then they just did not let AlphaTauri send a representative to plead this case. Ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. Can't. Yo, leave a F in the chat. Now let's get on to the replacements, right? Starting off with drivers that are already on the grid, we have Fernando Alonso. I don't think this is actually that likely, especially with all this Red Bull, I don't call it drama, allegations around Christian Horner and the team seemingly falling apart. I don't think Alonso is very likely to move to the team, especially if Aston can manage to improve the car. I don't even say, like, top 3 constructors. If they can show consistent progression over the course of this year, and the circumstance that Adrian Newey leaves Red Bull because of all the Red Bull stuff happening right now, I do not see Fernando Alonso joining Red Bull even remotely. That's never happening. You would only want to join Red Bull if you have the guy that's making that team successful there. If he's not there, no. Like, why would you? Like, you may as well join Mercedes, which is the next most speculated thing. Besides that, Albon, I think, makes more sense than Fernando Alonso. If you're moving from Williams to Red Bull, obviously, and Red Bull being a Thai-owned, Thai-affiliated company as well, having their Thai driver back in the seat would be very, very big for them. I'm sure it'd make a lot of people in that company happy. And Albon, obviously, being a fantastic driver, we've seen through the 2022 season, but 2023, we saw how amazing Alex Albon is. A supremely talented driver. Completely whitewashing his teammate, who obviously, Logan Sargent, we need to see him, have some life in him this season to really gauge how good he is, because last season was an absolute shocker. But Alex Albon moving back in the Red Bull seat, kinda likely. I say kinda, maybe like a 3 out of 10. I don't see it happening. Again, if Adrian Newey leaves that team, you just have so many other options, potentially. It's not set in stone, especially if Williams is going to stay on this upward trajectory. I just don't see it happening. But it's not like it's impossible. It's still very likely. It's impossible. I don't see it happening, not very likely. Look, mixed signals aside, this could happen. It's not very likely, in my opinion. But it's one of those faces roaming around the seat that wouldn't be shocking if you got it. You also have their plethora of juniors. You have Owasso, who's, I believe, in Super Formula right now. Just competed in F2 last year. Did fairly good. He's still obviously very young, depending how he does in Super Formula, which is what Liam Lawson did, by the way. He competed in Super Formula. The cars in Super Formula are closer to F1 than F2. That's why Liam Lawson was so good on debut. I'm sure, which honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, makes Ollie Behrman's performance even more impressive. Kind of ridiculous. But you have Iwasa, maybe potential candidate. Depends on Super Formula. Isaac Hadjar, also a maybe. I don't know. I don't think many people are feeling this too heavy. But it's just another Red Bull Junior. They have a ton of Red Bull Juniors coming up. Three of them are like, Iwasa, Hadjar. You have Pepe Marti as well. Shout out. You have all these drivers that are just like so ready, and they're so young. The problem is, right? So many drivers, like, because if you want an experienced driver who's very, very talented, you have Alonso. Someone a bit younger, like 6 or so years younger than Daniel Ricciardo, is like Alex Albon, also supremely talented. And then if you want to go young, you have Hadjar, Iwasa, Lawson. You have all these young drivers that show, varying, show good promise. I'm not sure about Hadjar. He's definitely worse than Liam Lawson. We'll stick around. It's early in the year. We'll see what he can do. Same with Iwasa. But Liam Lawson is no excuse. He's so young. He's got an immense amount of talent. He's basically guaranteed a seat for 2025 as well, which makes it super tough for Daniel Ricciardo. Like, you have to beat Yuki Tsunoda this year, otherwise it's honestly lights. If he doesn't beat Yuki Tsunoda this year, it's over. And so that's all the potential replacements for Daniel Ricciardo. And I have one more little cute little speaking point, if you allow me. And it's Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri is going to become the premier Australian in the sport. Let's keep it a stack. It was Mark Webber, then it was Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is fucked, quite frankly. He's fucked. Oscar Piastri, super uber mega talent. Oh my god, we just saw him get 4th in the Saudi Grand Prix, outplacing and out qualifying as well, I think, Lando Norris. I think he beat him in both. Supreme performances. He's already worked out his tire degradation issue, which was really the only thing holding him back last year from having like an even better season, if you could imagine that for a rookie. But Oscar Piastri, super talent, won everything before Formula 1 with ease, rookie season. Goes into Formula 1, crushes it, becomes like the 2nd or 3rd most successful rookie ever in Formula 1. And he's had a killer start to this season, to be honest. He's had a very good season in a car we're not too sure on the performance on, where it lies. It's probably the 4th or 5th fastest car right now. Not too sure. But he's done the best he can right now. And, brother, he's young too, bro. He's got so much time. He's got so many years on Ricciardo. And he's already, more than likely, better. Like, he's definitely better right now. And he's going to stay in the sport for longer. So, like, the need for, like, a second Australian driver on the grid is just, like... because you like having the diversity in terms of nationality. And you have the Australian, bro. Like, and if I may, I don't want to get political, but as an Australian myself, if you're from Perth, you're just not a fucking Australian. I gotta say it. That's like you're just California too. Shut up. Like, you're not actually from here. You just like play in dirt, like with motorbikes. Us Australians, we do other things. I don't know. They don't really do anything in Perth. But yeah, Oscar Piastri, kind of my last point here, and he's the up and coming Australian. We don't really need Daniel Ricciardo anymore, and he's also funny. The fans love this guy so much. He's funny. He's cute. And that's all you really need in a driver, bro. The fan cams are crazy. Look at him rock this fit with Esquire. We don't need Daniel Ricciardo anymore. We have a better Australian from Victoria. Yeah. And I think that's it for today. That's all my talking points on Daniel Ricciardo and my opinions on his future in the sport, and the factors that kind of play into where he'll end up being at the end of the year in 2025 and stuff like that. In my opinion, bro, it's time to go to IndyCar. It's time to learn NASCAR or something, bro. I think it's... I don't know if they would really rock with an Australian in NASCAR. I think there might be an Australian in NASCAR right now. Either way, I don't watch sports that involve minimal cornering. So thank you for joining in. Sure, this was a longer video. Sure, this was very, very long, in fact. And Daniel Ricciardo, get out.